Hello everyone, welcome to another video from Fantasy Football Scouts. This time we are looking at premium picks. So I think most of us have got, well, everyone's got one. Quite a lot of people have got two. Few people have got three, but can we get four in, Gianni? What do you reckon?
Oh, I think it might just be possible. I mean, if you're willing to go without the likes of Trent or Diaz or Cancelo, it is possible. High risk, however. But yeah, definitely something to look at. You know, the more premiums you have, the more captain options you probably have, and we love a captaincy option.
We do indeed, yeah. And I mean, I've been playing around with drafts, but to be honest, I haven't really looked at too many other than the two that I've got. So most of
Yeah.
my drafts have Salah and Fernandes in. I did toy with the idea of taking Fernandes out and spreading the money around, you know, the likes of Son, Mahrez, Sancho, that kind of thing, and going with one. But I still think with the captaincy, I know Salah seems obvious choice for the first like 5-6 games, but having that extra option as a premium pick sits better with me. So I'm probably going to be going with at least two, but it has been interesting to consider maybe going with a few more, something I hadn't really thought about before.
Yeah, me too. I think you're right. Like the Salah and Bruno thing. Whilst we've all made drafts without Bruno, haven't we? Everyone's been there in the last couple of weeks. Probably no one's made a draft without Salah. What's the point? But
No.
we've all had a go without Bruno, and we've gone, oh, we quite like this. But at the same time, there are so many reasons why we go, no, we need to start with Bruno and Salah and then work forward. Those two are kind of in my head. I think they are set, despite loving the look of some of the drafts without. But you do that, and you go, okay, these aren't just premiums; they're 12 million assets. They're the very top of that premium bracket. So to get a third in is asking questions. To get four in can verge on silly, but maybe possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to start considering this because pretty soon we might see Lukaku back in the Premier League. He's going to come in at what? 11.5, 12, something like that. He's going to be another premium asset.
Do you reckon that high? Do
When
you
he
reckon that
moves,
high? I reckon he'll come in at 10.5.
you think
But
10.5?
I mean, if he's 10.5, people will rush towards him, won't they?
I think if he's 10.5, he would be almost impossible to ignore. I would guess at 11, but I've been wrong on every other guess and prediction that I've made. I'd guess 11, but yeah, 10.5. I think I'd have to get him if he was 10.5 up front for Chelsea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one, of course, is Kane. So we're all waiting for the news that, you know, is he going to move? Will he move to City? He's a consideration. I mean, if he, you know, picks up his toys, gets back in his pram, and you know, forgives and forgets everyone and stays at Spurs. But if he moves to City, then, actually, before we go, let's just go straight into it. So the first draft, we put together a couple of different drafts, and I asked you to have a think about a draft with Kane as well as Salah and Fernandes. So this is what you came up with. So you got Sanchez in goal. You managed to keep Trent. You got Dean, and you've got Ben White. You got Salah. You got Smith Rowe, Fernandes, Brownhill starter, and then Kane, Antonio, and Tony. And then your bench is pretty grim with Foster, Gibbs, White, Dyer, which I think sums it up, and Omar Bamadeli. So you've had to make sacrifices here for this team. Do you think this team is worth it if he gets the move?
I think, do you know what? It doesn't look worth it when you see Brownhill starting. But if you were willing to maybe go Dean down to a 4.5 and up Brownhill to another 5.5, unfortunately there aren't many other than Smith Rowe, then maybe it could be. Look, if Kane does go to Man City and by game week 2, 3, he's in the starting 11. We just feel like if Kane does go to City, he's one of the few that won't really suffer from Pep roulette. No one's ever nailed, but you think he's probably going to start 8, maybe 9 in every 10 Premier League games. No other Man City forward you can rely on those sorts of numbers other than probably KDB, right, in terms of attacking players. So if Kane goes City, we all shift our teams around and we shoehorn him in. And if we don't, and Lukaku goes Chelsea, then we're going with Lukaku. If Lukaku goes Chelsea, Kane goes City, we're all going to want at least one of those guys covered, right? We're going to want the flexibility with our price points. So we're not going to have 6.5 to 8 million forwards. We're all going to have a premium forward.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why this season I think is so interesting because there just isn't really any premium options at all. I mean, Vardy's up there, but I have got a draft with him later, but no one's really considering him too much. And you know, we've come a long way since the days of, you know, Van Persie and Drogba and Henry and all these guys, and now most people's lineups have Antonio, Tony, and well, it was Watkins until yesterday, and now Ings is starting to creep into a few. So yeah, it's very strange times. I mean, the option I'm looking at this team. I mean, one option you could do. I think for Brownhill obviously isn't ideal.
Yeah,
You got Dallas at 5-5. You've got Smith Rowe there, who we've already got. I think sort of Harrison's probably the next step up at 6. Who could be a decent pick. So you could do something like move Antonio down to Abraham and then Dean down to someone like Soufal that would give you the 1.5 needed to upgrade Brownhill to Harrison. You could maybe think about doing that. But really, I mean, other than Brownhill, I think this is a team that should do pretty well over the first few years. And even Brownhill, I mean, he's very popular. He's doing well pre-season, and Burnley are showing a bit more attacking verve, so he could do all right.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Sean Dyche. We all think of Sean Dyche as a very defensive manager, and we know why. The second half of last season, he started pushing his fullbacks up. We saw Matt Loughton score that goal. Everyone remembers it. Taylor was getting forward too. They were just being a little bit more advanced. They were scoring more goals, and you look at it. They scored. There was a fair few games where they were clocking 2-3 goals. We don't really recognise Burnley for that. And Brownhill, knowing he's on set pieces often too, it makes him a little bit more attractive. So yeah, this team would mean you're probably playing Brownhill most weeks. Not ideal, but if you've got Kane, Fernandes, and Salah, then it makes up a little bit for that, doesn't it?
Well, that's the idea. I remember last season I saw teams that did this 3 premiums, and I think Souček was kind of perfect because he was 5, and in most people's teams, and for a lot of people he was the 5th midfielder, but quite a few people ended up starting. I know Joe did, for example, had Souček starting almost every week and got points from him almost every week. Yeah. Smith Rowe to me seems like the kind of cheapest person who I think we might be able to rely on a little bit. Yeah. Unless Maddison moves. I really like Smith Rowe at 5-5. I think he's the kind of player that can just make this team happen, because if he wasn't there, I don't really know where you'd kind of go. I really like Smith Rowe. I think he could be in for a really big season.
Yeah, me too. Like, you look at the Arsenal wide forwards, and it's hard to say exactly who's going to start. There's been a bit of popularity for Pepe, but if Saka's back, is Pepe going to start every week? Probably not. Saka's first choice there. Aubameyang is almost first choice if he's playing wide, or will he play 9? The one position where there's no competition for places is the number 10 role, if Arteta continues to play the 4-2-3-1. That last season, there was Odegaard, who's gone back to Real Madrid, and of course was only on loan last season. So Smith Rowe's got that number 10 role kind of on lockdown. I like it. He's going to be playing week in, week out, which we like at 5.5. And pre-season form's been pretty useful too.
Yeah, unless they go all out and sign James Maddison. And those transfer rumblings keep kind of going on. I can't see it. I just think it's a hell of a lot of money. And I just don't see Maddison as that big of an upgrade on Smith Rowe. And I'm Maddison's biggest fan, as you probably know. But I don't know. I think Smith Rowe's got... He's a classy player. He makes things happen. He wants to get more goals this season. Strong pre-season. Yeah. Then that's not where they need to spend 70 million, I don't think.
No, and if they wanted a replacement for Smith Rowe, or they didn't think he was ready, they accept Aston Villa's bids. Aston Villa bid twice for him. I think there was a 25 million bid in there. They said no to that, and they gave him the number 10 shirt. That's a massive statement. I genuinely think that, and I read into things like that. Only a little bit, but you look at it and go, yeah, I think he's pretty nailed. I think the team, maybe it's a little bit early to say the team's being built around him, but that's a very influential role in a 4-2-3-1. And Arteta's going, do you know what? I trust you. I'll give it to him. The Croydon De Bruyne ads.
The Croydon De Bruyne, exactly. Well, from his point of view as well, though, like, you have bids rejected for you, you sign a new contract, you're given the number 10, you're told all this, and then suddenly they go out and spend 70 million on a player who isn't even that much better, I don't think, than you. It just doesn't quite... But there is often no smoke without fire on these things, and we'll kind of see what happens. But Leicester aren't going to let him go for less than 70 million, I wouldn't have thought. All right, let's move on to the next team. So I put one together. I thought, what would happen if I tried to put a team with Salah, Fernandes and De Bruyne together? And it's pretty similar to yours, to be fair. I couldn't find a way of not having Brownhill in the starting lineup. It's Sanchez in goal, Trent and Dean and Soufal. So I did keep some money in defence, a bit more than you managed. Salah, Fernandes, De Bruyne, Smith Rowe, Brownhill, Tony and Antonio. So Tony and Antonio are kind of the kind of mid-priced-ish strikers that kind of let this happen. You could take some money out here. You could do kind of what I said. You could drop Dean and Soufal down to 4-5s and upgrade Brownhill to Harrison, for example. I kind of just feel that you could kind of tear your team up a bit too much just to upgrade Brownhill to Harrison, and is Harrison really going to... I mean, I think Harrison's going to do quite well, but is he going to score that much more than Brownhill over the first 4 or 5 games to kind of rip your team up a bit to upgrade him? I'm not really sure. I fancy Dean and Soufal to outscore 2 4-5s in Harrison, for example, alongside Brownhill. So that was the thinking there. What do you think of this? Is this something that... I mean, let's talk about De Bruyne. What do you think about De Bruyne this season? Do you think he's in for a good season?
Yeah, I really do. I'm one of his biggest fans. I was big on him last season. I swear I captained him every
He's
time
quite good, isn't he?
hit the woodwork last season. Like literally, I was big on... Part of the reasons I had such a poor season was because I was so big on City, which... hindsight, it looks like the right decision because they scored a load of goals, but I was on the wrong players at the wrong time. But
Same.
Look, I always cover City attack. Like I am going to go into this season with Mahrez, and I don't think it will be a long term. It will be for a couple of weeks until I start thinking he's going to be rotated. But when I ditch Mahrez, eventually my eyes will be firmly on how and when can I get De Bruyne or hopefully Harry Kane in. I just love to cover the most attacking team in the league for obvious reasons, and for some reason we all don't because we fear Pep Roulette. But if you plan it and if you back the right guy, Pep Roulette shouldn't be a massive issue. Like De Bruyne, like Diaz at the back, or like Kane if he goes. They're not all rotation risks. Not all 11 players are rotation risks. So I do like it. The only thing that I guess limits you with this sort of draft is that third striker slot. What we love in FPL is jumping on a bandwagon up front, right? So if Danny Ings or DCL or whoever is on a run, you can't easily go Obafemi out and get that kind of 7.58 million striker. If you had a £6 million forward in there, then you could probably find the extra cash to go up to a whoever, an Ings. So I'd wonder, you could go Dean and Soufal down to 4.5s. That saves you 1.5 million. You then upgrade Obafemi to a 6. The problem is there are no good 6 million forwards this year. You've got Pookie, who's got terrible fixtures. You've got Danny Welbeck, who's sick note. So it's a shame that we just don't have the 6 million forwards this year. You've got Tony at 6.5, but you just don't have the 6s, which makes it a little bit tricky for FPL managers. You've either got to write off a forward space and go for a 4.5 on the bench, or you've got to spend 6.5 or above. There's nothing between.
I think it's the major problem with when you're trying to cram in all these premiums, and people have probably noticed it when they've tried, is you've just got no flexibility at all. Like you can't really move away from the, if you want to get Calvert-Lewin, you've got to find 0.5 from somewhere. If you want to upgrade Brownhill, you're going to have to find 1.5. If you want to get like a 6 million defender, Chilwell or Cancelo or someone, you're going to find it hard. Your first sacrifice is probably going to be one of your 3 premiums, but if they're all firing, it's going to be very reluctant to take out Fernandes for someone or De Bruyne, for example. And then this is it though, and then you think, and then we're going to be adding more into it. Kane, Lukaku coming in. If Mahrez starts strongly, Son is an option who we're going to talk about in a bit as well. At the moment, it feels like everyone's got Salah, and then a few people, they're about 50-50 split with Fernandes, but that's kind of it. As soon as we start seeing De Bruyne coming in, Lukaku coming in, Kane coming in, it's all going to just go crazy, right?
Yeah, it really is. And it's exactly that, it's the flexibility by having too many premiums that can really damage you. If you're the sort of manager that gives players time and is a very patient FPL manager, then perhaps a team like this doesn't look too scary, because you go, it doesn't matter if, De Bruyne is not firing. I know I want him and I'm not willing to spend 4-point hits moving him on and restructuring my squad. Because that's the other thing. When you're selling premiums to create funds, you're using 2 transfers, which are often hits if they're not carried. So if you're that patient manager that likes to give it a lot of time, perhaps something like this, you can go with. If you like to tinker, like most of us do, and we get itchy, then, it's probably not the sort of setup for you by having those too many big names.
Yeah, I think one of the things that kind of maybe puts me off going down the 3 premium route though is the captaincy, because if you look at the first 7 fixtures of Liverpool's, you can make a case for captaining Salah in every single one of those games. So you've got 3 premiums. The idea of that is you probably want to rotate that around a little bit. So Salah's got a bad game, you give it to Fernandes. Bruno's got Watford at home, so you give it to him. KDB's got Palace at home, you give it to. I don't know, but it just seems that you don't need to do that particularly early on. It might be a factor more when we wildcard, 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. But at least in the short term, Salah just seems such a lock for that captaincy.
He does. Liverpool have just got the most unbelievable fixtures. Yep. And actually, we've got De Bruyne in there. that could easily be Mane, couldn't it? Like, I'm
Good,
not suggesting
absolutely.
you'd be captain Mane. Maybe you would if he was on a red hot streak and Salah had a little dip. But the double Liverpool attack in Salah and Mane would be a real differential, wouldn't it? But
Well, if you
Mane's ownership's so low.
exactly, if you really want to attack those Liverpool fixtures, you go Trent, Salah, and Mane.
Yeah,
and you have a
captain
team
one of them
similar
as
to
well.
this.
And if you captain one of them, it's effectively you've got 4 Liverpool players with captaincy and probably like 40% of your budget on Liverpool. But why
and then
not?
They lose 1-0 to Norwich.
Yeah, well, we remember, don't we? The last time Liverpool and Norwich played on the opening weekend of the season, a couple of years ago, was it 3-2 at Anfield? There was goals.
Yeah, it was a thriller.
And loads of people had Trent and Robbo, and it was like, oh, they're both finished on 1 point. But
Van Dijk scored. I remember Van Dijk scored because I had him quite early. Salah got 2 or 1 or 2 or something. I think Mane's,
I'm guessing Pookie and Cantwell got points as well, and the bandwagon started.
That was exactly it. Yeah, the Pookie party really started on that day, and it lasted for a few weeks until it went off a cliff.
Yeah.
I mean, the other question mark here is Trent. So we've managed to kind of keep Trent in a lot of these premium drafts that we're talking about. But if we're looking to upgrade the rest of our team, maybe he is the player that we could potentially sacrifice. He's going to have to get off to a fairly decent start, I think, because we saw last season that he wasn't always on it. His form massively picked up towards the end of the season. But if he doesn't start well and he's 7-5, he's quite an easy player to downgrade, to upgrade someone like Brownhill.
He is, and his ownership's so high. So if he doesn't start well, he is one that we could see dropping in price. I think, I must admit, I can't see a slow start for Trent. I'm not saying I can see guaranteed Liverpool clean sheets, because I don't think we can without Van Dijk being fully match fit and raring to go. I know he's played once in pre-season. And without him, you always fear the clean sheet goes. But attacking potential with Trent, if he picks up where he left off from the end of last season, the fact he's had a summer off, he looks razor sharp in pre-season, all things point towards Trent getting off to a flyer, I think. Yeah. Although we can't forget last season, we did start to see him and Robbo sharing set pieces. So he does lose a little bit of threat. I do think, again, this season, Robbo will be on 50% of the corners and some of the free kicks. But then in open play, Trent just massively outperforms him. So, yeah, I must admit, I can't even consider going without Trent. He is one of the very few players I would go with the lock emoji on Twitter. And I don't like that lock emoji. It's bloody dangerous. It's so dangerous. When I see the lock emoji and people changing their team the day later, I want to vomit in my mouth. But actually, I could safely lock on Trent.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think the potential is there for massive hauls. I think what's going to be interesting is if he does get off to a slow start after 1 or 2 games, at the likes of Chilwell, Cancelo, even if Van Dijk was back and Trent wasn't getting returns. I mean, 1.5 is a lot of money to have in him. 7.5, the most expensive defender in the game. He has to do something more than just keep a couple of clean sheets. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it'd be fascinating to see what kind of happens to him. But I'm the same. I think particularly against Norwich away, he could come away with that with 15 points, easy, and then you're behind everyone that's kept faith of him. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay, let's go to your next team. So premium picks to me probably around 9 million or above. So if this one you've gone for Mahrez, so you've got Salah, Fernandes, and Mahrez, which gives you a little bit more money to play with because you don't have to spend you've got 3 million because you have to get like a De Bruyne or a Kane or someone like that. So this seems a bit more balanced, I'd say. So you've got Sanchez in goal, Trent again, Veltman and White. So quite a cheap defence here, but then you haven't really got any weaknesses. Salah, Mahrez, Fernandes, Rafinha makes it, and then Antonio Danny Ings coming in for Watkins and Ivan Toney with your mate Dyer again on the bench, Gibbs White and Omar Bamidele. So quite cheap in defence here, Trent, Veltman and White, but rest of the team strong.
Yeah, this is actually my current draft, Daz. And I say current draft now? Because
I won't slate too much then.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm glad you built that up a little bit. So I don't actually create drafts. I don't create drafts and save them on a camera roll, save them on my desktop. I just tweak my one and only draft each day, and I have my watch list in my head and I know the players I'm looking with. So I don't actually like to see a screen with my 40 drafts and go, oh, on Friday the 13th of August, I'm going to pick that one. So I actually only have one draft. And currently, if you log into my account, this is the draft that is saved. Yes, it will change. Of course it will. But the price points might not. So I was actually quite anti-Sanchez in goal at 4.5. And I said with my team reveal with Joe 2 weeks ago, I'm not a big fan of him. Because of the bonus and saves. But actually, to get Danny Ings in, I had to find 0.5 from somewhere. And like every year, if you need to find money, you go, oh, can I downgrade my goalkeeper from?
You were on Pickford, weren't you? Pickford.
I was on Pickford, and I've been on Hendo and Meslier as well. Like I like and I like Schmeichel. I like the 5 million keepers. But I'm thinking if I do wildcard early, then actually Sanchez for the first 4, 5, 6 is brilliant because of the fixtures. So yeah, this is my current draft. It is Trent and then 4.5s. Dyer could easily be Ayling. But again, if I'm going to wildcard in 4 or 5 weeks, do I want Ayling with those fixtures? Maybe not. And then, it's got if we're talking premiums, it's got Salah and Bruno. But as I said, covering Man City attack. The one thing I really want to do in this team is, if I can, I want to get Harvey Barnes in. I've wanted Harvey Barnes since the end of last season. I was like, if he's fit and ready to go in August, I want him. And obviously watching him in the pre-season, knowing how key he is to how Brendan Rodgers likes to pound the counter, I think it's, if you can afford Barnes, if you can upgrade your Rafinha to Barnes, go for it, especially with the fixtures that Rafinha has. But at the same time, I just can't see how I'm going to find the money. I really like Danny Ings for the first those 3 fixtures, but I do need to see him play in pre-season for Villa. I'm guessing they've only got one more game. So, maybe I go back to Watkins for 3, or maybe I just avoid Villa completely. But I do think I'll go into game week 1 with a very similar looking team to this. And one thing I think I'm set on is Salah, Mahrez and Bruno, although Harry Kane going to Man City could throw a spanner in the works.
Yeah, probably not straight away though, right? Like even if these signs I guess he'd have to sign like about the next week not even that. He'd have to sign the next few days, I think.
He's not going to play game week 1, is he?
No.
But I still would go, I'm going to want Kane come game week 2 for Norwich potentially, or game week 3. And therefore, do I need to restructure and have a premium forward in there, like a placeholder, like a Vardy? I don't know. So
I think we'll see a lot of wildcards play game week 2 if Kane signs for City.
Yeah, and if we don't, we'll see a lot of 4-point hits going, yes. I might have to get Bruno out and go Bruno to, I don't know, Harvey Barnes, and then Antonio goes up to Kane or whatever. It is doable in 2 moves quite easily if you're willing to get rid of Bruno.
Well, it's one of the reasons why I think you need at least 2 premiums, and it's something I've fought with Mark and Luke on Black Box earlier in the week, because that is something that you've got to factor in. You've got to factor in the ability to be able to shift between the premiums.
Yeah.
And okay, at the moment, it might be that we've only really got Salah and Fernandes to consider. Possibly Mane is a bit of a differential punt. No one's really considering De Bruyne or Kane. But 2 or 3 weeks down the line, things are going to be very different. And as I said, we're going to be probably adding Lukaku into that. So I think you're basically just you're going to be wildcard in game week 3 or 4. I think if you only go with 1 premium. That's my prediction anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a really dangerous game. I honestly can't say I've ever gone into a season with 1 premium. I see the argument for so many good mid-price players, but at the same time, it just makes your transfers so much easier if you've got a couple, as you say, just easy downgrades or switches. We want to do as few transfers as possible as well. If you're having to go up and down all the time to get your premiums, you're just encouraging those 4-point hits.
Yep. Completely agree, and I like the Harvey Barnes shout. I think he's. I really hope he comes back from this injury and does well. I guess there's just a few question marks about. I mean, how the hell are Leicester going to line up? Iheanacho's done too much. He seems undroppable, but Vardy's still there. You got Barnes as well. You got Maddison. They got this new guy Daka as well, who looks really good.
He looked good last night, apparently.
Yeah.
I saw the Harvey Barnes goal last night was brilliant as well.
Yeah.
So you can't fit them all in. Perez has been getting loads of game time too.
I know. It's going to be interesting. It's another one where you want to know, sort of a bit like Ings, you want to know how they're going to set up before you kind of go for it. But I think we'll know pretty quickly with them. Okay, so the 4th team I've got. So this one I went a little bit wild. We've been doing 3 premiums. I thought, can I get 4 premiums in? So here I've got Salah, I've got Fernandes, I've got Son, and I've got Vardy. And the rest of the team is Sanchez, Charlie Taylor, Ben White, Veltman. So no Trent, surprisingly, could not fit him in. Salah, Smith Rowe, Fernandes, Son, Antonio, Vardy, Tony. And on the bench, Foster, Cody, Brownhill, Ayling. Do you know what? I don't hate it. I mean, obviously Son's got the City game, first of all. Vardy, there's a few question marks about what his role is going to really be at Leicester. And obviously the defence is very weak. But I mean, you could do something like drop one of Cody or Ayling down and then upgrade Taylor to a 5 like a Soufal. And then you're basically looking at, compared to your team, Trent versus Soufal, because you've got 2 4-5s alongside him anyway.
Yeah.
And then 4 premiums. What do you think?
I actually don't hate it either. I mean, I'm thinking as well, if Lukaku does go Chelsea, what price is Vardy as? Is he 10?
He's 10, yeah.
So if Lukaku does go Chelsea, and I'm right about the guess, we're at 10.5, you could very easily have a Lukaku in there for Vardy when he, eventually, because all you've got to do is downgrade Cody or Ayling to
Sorry, he's
10.5.
He's 10.5.
He's 10.5. Okay,
He's
wow.
10.5.
So even if Lukaku's at 11 million, which he's not going to be more than that, you could downgrade, Ayling or Cody to a 4 bench fodder and even get Lukaku in there. So it looks potentially even better once you've done that move if Lukaku joins.
Excellent point. So you could have Vardy in as a kind of placeholder, downgrade Ayling to your Omar Bemedeli and keep the 0.5 in the bank. And as soon as Lukaku signs for Chelsea, you just swap Vardy out for Lukaku and you get that Wolves game for Vardy straight into Lukaku. We solved it.
It's not a bad compromise.
We've solved it.
When you look, all you're compromising in this entire team is Trent. There is only one name you are compromising in this team. And we're talking about a defender here. Yes, he's very advanced and gets lots of attacking returns, but we're talking about a defender that, without Van Dijk, clean sheets aren't nailed, despite the fixtures looking good. So with that said, you could risk it. You've not got to worry. I know you don't worry too much about effective ownership ads. I don't want to bring on this new discussion towards the end of the video. But for those that do worry about effective ownership, with Trent, you haven't got to worry too much. Whilst we all might own him, no one's captaining the guy, right? So, you could probably go a little bit. It's not too scary. There's loads of drafts where you have to sacrifice a really popular asset. You don't have Bruno or you don't have, Mahrez that everyone's loving at the moment. To go without Trent is doable. Personally, I don't think I can do it. But seeing this draft, it definitely tempts you.
You're banking on Trent not getting a series of double-digit returns and Liverpool not being tight at the back, which I could see that happening. I'm all for Trent. He's almost certainly going to be in my final team, but I don't think it's that ridiculous to consider teams going without him. This isn't the Liverpool team that we saw a few years ago where they were keeping clean sheets every match. This is a Liverpool team who are just getting their 2 first-choice central defenders back. Yeah. And you've got a Trent who's in a bit of a mixed vein of form. So, it's a risk, it's a gamble, but like you say, he's not going to be captained and you've got Salah there and you've got players here who can hopefully pick up the slack even if Trent does do well.
Yeah, if you rotate those, if you do have 4.5 defenders on the bench and, you identify how you're going to rotate them, could be really useful. I do think this year in FPL, the best value category of players, period, in the game are the 4.5 defenders. Genuinely, I'm over...
And you've got Dyer.
Yeah, I know, right? Do you know why? I'm surprised I've not seen Dyer in more drafts, to be fair. I think he's nailed to start, although we don't know that. But if Nuno does what at Spurs, what he did at Wolves, he will keep clean sheets. Oh, and by the way, he's got a better squad to do that with. So I do think eventually Dyer could be a very good pick for your 6-pointers. We know he's not going to get more than that. But the 4.5 bracket of defenders is so good. That's part of the reason why I've got Trent with the 4.5s, because I just think Ben White should be 5 million. You look, the Burnley guy, Taylor and Loughton should probably be 5 million. Veltman could easily be 5 million, especially if he's playing right wing back. I just think there's really... Ayling could be, the new Leeds left backs come in at 5 million. Why is Ayling not 5 million? There's just really good value there. Whether you go Dyer or not, there's really good value there.
Big shame about Fofana last night, getting that injury.
Again, what was he doing at 4.5?
Yeah, I know. Well, that I couldn't understand that. I mean, Johnny Evans was 5'5", and Fofana's 4'5". I mean, he was an absolute. You talk about the lock emoji. Fofana was an absolute lock emoji in my team because I just thought that's probably a million underpriced if you're looking at it. But yeah, obviously just another one of these stupid pre-season injuries. I don't know what the offended player was doing. It's just an unfortunate injury though. Again, wasn't it? Like it was a stupid tackle. He could have stayed on his feet, but you wouldn't expect that to do the damage that it did. I mean, he's going to be out for what? He quite even missed the whole season, right?
Yeah, it's an absolute shocker in a pre-season. I looked at it and thought, with Evans out, yes, Soyuncu will start and he's probably going to play just the back 4. At the moment, now bearing in mind Brendan Rodgers will go into the transfer market, but at the moment you look at it and go, Daniel Amati is 4 million. came in last season and did a really good job at centre-back, at right-sided centre-back, I think it was, in a 3. But could we see Amati starting the season at 4.0? I've not seen anything about this on Twitter or anything. I've not really been on Twitter today, but I'm surprised people aren't. I'd be surprised if people weren't talking about him as an option. Maybe speech to Leicester fans, but I think at the moment in the current squad, he's the one that would slot in at centre-back. But yeah, surely now Rodgers has got a buy, which is really tough because you've already got Evans, Soyuncu, Fofana. You've already got really good centre-backs. You don't want to go and spend 20, 30 million on someone that's going to then be benched later down the line. So you've got to buy someone that's good, but not going to cost you loads of money and rot on the bench in 6 months.
And and someone who's probably willing to know that they are going to be benched in that time. I mean, because they've had Morgan go, haven't they? And obviously Fuchs as well. He was someone that could drop in to fill in the centre back in the 3, but he's gone as well. So yeah, they have to buy a centre back, I think. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see who they get. Yeah. Gianni, that's amazing. Thank you so much. I'd just like to give a shout out to the members area on Fantasy Football Scouts. 20% off still. So head onto the site if you're not a member and join. We've got a new transfer planning tool coming this week, which I've been developing with the Championship Manager FPL guys. They're awesome. It's just exactly what I wanted. A nice spreadsheet. You can plan your transfers out, all your team value, and see how your team's looking for each week. It's great. And obviously there's loads of other stuff in the members area. Opta stats, rate my team, stats tables, comparison tools, all that great stuff. But Gianni, that is it for us for now. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you soon.
Thank you, mate. Speak soon.
See you soon.